Are you an Instacart shopper that's tired of losing money and also making mistakes while you shop? Well, today I'm giving you 10 tips that help me shop faster, complete more orders, and also make tons more money while on shift. So without any further holdup, let's go ahead and get into tip number one. Tip number one is to always have a game plan before you even step foot in the grocery store. So right after you park, you want to sit in your parking spot just for a little longer, and you want to go and look at all of the products that you're requested to get in your batch. This step should only take a few seconds. This is pretty much just a glance of all of the items that you've been requested to get, and you want to kind of make a strategy on where you're going to start your batch. Is it going to be the produce, or are you going to go for the cookies first? You just want to figure out where you're going to start and where you're going to end. So I do think that this is a very helpful tip for you guys that are just starting out as an Instacart shopper. Just to add another example to what I'm talking about here is if you have two items on your order and it's a box of cookies and also a rotisserie chicken, it would be wise of you to go and get the cookies first and end off your batch with the rotisserie chicken as your second or your last product that you're going to pick up in that specific batch. So let me kind of explain why you should do this or have a game plan before you even step foot in the grocery store. This tip is to help you eliminate going down the same aisle more than once in any given order. Tip number two is kind of a crazy one. I can't really believe that I have to add this into a video, especially if you're an Instacart shopper. But tip number two is to always check expiration dates. Now, I do feel that you would probably be shocked at the amount of times that a customer has left me a note asking me if I would kindly just pay attention to expiration dates. So that just shows me that there are shoppers out there that's just grabbing the first thing on the shelf. And as a customer, I wouldn't really appreciate that either. So I had to include this tip into this video. So if you're an Instacart shopper out there, please be sure to be checking the expiration dates out there, okay? Because if you don't pay attention to it, you know the customer will. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to be known as the Instacart shopper getting all these negative ratings because you never check the expiration dates. Now, I'm not saying that it's a guarantee, but it's a possibility that maybe even after you check the expiration dates, customers will notice that you always choose great items, and this might actually lead to future increased tips as the customer gets more familiar and sees your face or your name on multiple orders down the road. I only say this because it happened to me, okay? A lot of customers noticed that I was assigned to their batch, and they used to always greet me at the door, and sometimes they gave me a little extra just because they liked the work, and they would leave me awesome reviews. Like, I was super grateful for all of the awesome reviews that they left for me after I completed their order. Now let's go ahead and slide into tip number three. Tip number three is to always grab your frozen items and also your hot items last. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that it would be a wise decision for you to grab either your rotisserie chicken or your frozen vegetables in the beginning of your order, especially if it takes you a little bit longer to shop. So if it takes you an hour to shop, that hot chicken or that frozen vegetables or the frozen whatever, by the time you're done with your order, those are going to be melted, or they're just not going to be as fresh as they could have been if you picked those items up last. Now, I feel that I don't really have to mention this, but bringing a customer their order and the ice cream is melted, or the frozen vegetables are squishy, or maybe even the rotisserie chicken is ice cold, this might actually take a little bit out of your expected tip. So now, tip number four is to invest in multiple insulated bags. As an Instacart shopper, insulated bags have definitely saved my shift, my amount of tips. It saves everything, okay? So always be prepared and always have multiple insulated bags. Having enough insulated bags is a complete game changer because now you have the ability to keep all the cold items in one and then all the hot items in another bag. So just having a few of these will really help organize everything and keep those items fresh. I really don't think that there's going to be anything worse than having to deliver a customer their wet ice cream or their melted ice cream or anything of that nature. So just make sure you are well equipped and well prepared, and it'll definitely help you out in the end. Tip number 5 is an important tip for all of you guys that might be a little bit more experienced, but not all the way a professional Instacarter yet. But it is to make sure that you stay organized, especially if you are doing multi-order batches. Organization as an Instacart shopper can be super game-changing, because this can be the difference between a horrible order or maybe a smoother order, and hopefully the faster you get done with that order, the faster you'll be getting paid so you can take on another one. Being unorganized, especially if you're doing multi-order batches, can be a complete mess. So please stay organized and make sure that your orders are separated, just to ensure that you have a smooth checkout. Tip number 6. I feel that this one is something that we all know, especially if you've done Instacart for maybe even an hour, okay? And tip number 6 is to make sure that you have a portable phone charge bank, okay? Usually I would say keep at least one, but if you can go and find 2, then that might be more ideal, just to have 2. I have not seen too many gig apps that you can actually run for more than an hour that have not done numbers to your phone battery. I always find it to be very helpful, and I think it's a good idea to have 2, just so that you can keep one in your pocket and one always in the car or your vehicle, so that that one in the vehicle is always charging every time you start the vehicle. So you'll always have them in rotation. I wouldn't even want to think about how I would be feeling or what would be going through my mind if I'm in the middle of a huge order or a huge batch and my phone just completely cuts off. I wouldn't know what to do, all right? So please make sure that you have those phone charge banks handy. Tip number 7 that I have for you is more of a change of pace, and these batches are actually a lot easier than the other ones. Tip number 7 is to try to aim for the batches at grocery stores that actually give you the aisle numbers in your orders. So if you're an Instacart shopper that's typically a little slower when it comes to completing batches, then you might want to actually aim for these orders when they pop up on your phone. These orders pretty much tell you exactly where the item is. Well, they give you the aisle number that you can find the item down, and you just go to that aisle and go and pick up the product. Okay, it's as simple as that. It takes a lot of the guessing out of the order or out of the batch. So hopefully with orders like this, it can save you a little bit more time so you can complete more orders throughout your day. For me, the stores that actually provide aisle numbers are maybe like a Wegmans, sometimes Shoppers, and maybe even a Safeway. But for you, it might be a little different. So if there are any of the grocery stores in your area that actually supply you with an aisle number, then I would highly suggest you take those orders. Tip number 8 was something that I always like to do, especially when it comes to kind of having a swift checkout and loading up my vehicle. So tip number 8 is to always tie your customers' bags. This tip was more so of a safety precaution, so that I knew that there wasn't any item sliding out of the customer's bags while I was en route to dropping off this order. My goal was to make sure that no item was left behind, so I just tied up the bag, made sure that all of them were secure. So then, I didn't have any complaints about me not having an item that I promised and I checked out with. So yes, this is a tip that really helped me out in the end. I feel that not only did me tying the bags helped me in my mind, but it also gave the customer a little bit of privacy when they were to order anything, pretty much. So I really like tying the bags and leaving them on the doorsteps. If you want to test out this tip, then go ahead, do it. I really never had any complaints when it comes to tying them. Of course, I'm not like triple tying it. I'm just tying it enough to where nothing can rattle out or shake out of each of the bags. So test it out, see if it works for you, And yeah, I think it works. Tip number 9 is always going to be a tip that I'm going to talk about, especially if we're speaking on Instacart, and that is customer service. Customer service is a huge thing when it comes to these gig apps, because you really want to show the customer that you are a human, and this could possibly increase your tips at the end of your orders. I feel that whenever you can, you probably should communicate with your customer, especially if it's about changes, or if you need to find different items, or if an item isn't there, or if you like anything of that matter. Just make sure to keep an open line of communication with the customer. Unfortunately, there will be times that the store just doesn't have what the customer is asking for, and you're going to have to reach out to that customer to see if they would like either a refund or if they would like to substitute for a different item. And customer service, you know, it could lead you to more tips, of course, but it's a little hard, because I know a lot of you guys want to just go get these orders done without speaking to people, but you might be losing out on a few extra dollars every order just by not speaking to the customer. Now we are finally on tip number 10. Now tip number 10 is something that I need all of you guys to pay attention to, okay? You listening? Tip number 10 is to always make sure that if you're replacing an item or substituting an item, make sure that that item makes sense. I've heard quite a few horror stories where a customer is just receiving just anything, okay? So like you want to make sure that it makes sense. In my opinion, if I was a customer, I don't think that there will be anything worse than asking for a specific item and you coming back and dropping off something that I just wouldn't even buy, okay? So just make sure it makes sense. I mean, just a little bit of common sense will go a long way when it comes to apps like this. It's fairly easy. I do believe the app even tries to give you suggestions, so just make it make sense. That's it. Hopefully you found a lot of value and a lot of tips that you probably weren't even aware about in this video, and if you do, then make sure to show a little bit of love by smashing a like on the video. If there was a specific tip that stood out to you the most, then make sure to comment that tip down below, or if you would want to share one of your tips that is proven, then make sure to share that down below as well. So I understand there's a lot more new Instacart shoppers in the area, and if you guys want to learn more about my adventure and my experience of being an Instacart shopper, then make sure to check out this video that I'm leaving on this end card screen, and I'm going to be discussing the things that I actually regret doing as a brand new Instacart shopper. So make sure to check that video out just to make sure that you don't make these same mistakes I did, all right? But I will see you all in this next video, and thank you for watching.